Anyway, here we go.
One of the top players in the world rated on his visualization is Helgamo, who's actually, of course, playing in this match in the Monaco team. One half by North would have indicated 14 points up. He's only got 13, so he starts with a weak no trump instead. We must all try to remember that any one-level bids by North-South promise 14 points up. And I won't say any more about their bidding because Bill Jacobs is the world expert on the Fantoni Noon system. He's just written a book about it. And I'm sure he must have read his own book at least once, if only in the proof checking, so he should know what he's talking about.
Yes, fortunately I had to proof check it a few more times to eliminate all the typos that I've since found. Of course, the system's evolving. They're doing things now that are not in the book as they've developed the system further. So it's very much not a static thing. But here I can tell you that South has stamened and then relayed with the two-spade bid, and North has shown his 5-card heart suit.
I was saying that because of the delay we'd had here, we might get behind in the other room and therefore get the results flowing through for comparisons. Well, we have got a result here, 3 no trumps made, but when I look at the scorecard from the other table, I see they've only played one board. So it seems that the delay that was applied, because this was the Bali live view graph match, did apply to both tables and won't assist us in general unless we happen to be a bit slower than them.
So one of David's pet and proven perhaps theories is that these leads can really hurt your side. East does have a 4-card suit, but not a 5-card suit, and so this is declared as 9th trick. Likely from the toning we can see, well, he'll test diamonds at some point. We can see he can either take 4 diamonds, these 2 clubs. In fact, when the jack falls, likely he can take 3 club tricks, but 4 diamonds, 2 clubs, a spade, and to keep control of the suit, he'll probably lead the queen of hearts at some point from his hand, and that gives him 2 heart tricks.
East might often choose a passive lead from that hand because leading from king to 4 may well it gives away about half a trick on average, and you don't have 5-card suits to set up to compensate for that with long card tricks. However, here when North has shown 5 hearts and he's got 3 low in the suit, he may think that the contract is likely to be fairly easy unless the defence can make some aggressive strike. Versace, on the other hand, is looking at King 10, 9, 8 to 5 hearts, so he knows that although a pretty decent dummy has gone down, that at least the 5-card heart suit is no particular threat. Al Hollander is telling us that East-West play odd-even discards. That means that instead of using a high card to encourage or a low card to encourage, if you play a reversed attitude, They use the parity of the card to pass those messages, either an odd or an even discard. Bobby Wolf, famous American player, he used to think that that was open to question ethically, because some players, not at this level of course, if they've got a bundle of odd cards, or two odd cards say, and they want to pass the message an even one would, they can sort of get that across. Here they've got screens to prevent it, not that they'd even try it at this level. They can get that message across by sort of frowning and making it obvious that it's difficult for them to signal, and then playing an odd one. The general idea is that if you've got several odd cards, you will play an unusually high one to cancel the message of the odd card, and to say that your real meaning is that would have been passed by an even card.
Yes, you're right, David. And the normal thing in Wales when playing odd even is that it's attitude for the odd cards, relative attitude, and then suit preference for the even cards. Curiously, on the subject of hesitating and so on, you see people doing it with just basic discarding as well. So unethical play is unethical play. Don't blame the methods, blame the person.
Yes, that's the point I was going to make and forgot to. It's perfectly true. Although Bobby Wolf objects to that method particularly, the same thing can apply if you're playing high-low and you've only got the 9 and 8 to play, and you don't really want to pass the message that a high card would show. So I absolutely agree with Johan's comment there.
So nicely played here.
Clara has 8 top tricks in 3 no trumps. Looks like he can set up the king of spades, and that will fail only if the defenders can take 4 hearts and the ace of spades in good time. Say South leads a heart to the queen. It would in fact work for Declarer to win with the ace, keeping his jack 1, and at some stage lead towards the king of spades. Because the ace is onside, the jack 1 remaining in hearts would still act as a stopper.
So for those in the audience a bit confused why East bid over 2 clubs, 1 club is only 2 plus. Think of it as a 0 no trump initially, although possibly natural and possibly various types of hands. So West 2 clubs is a new suit at a new level, at opposite of 0 no trump, and therefore is natural and forcing. And so this tells East about the 5 power club suit, and they happily get to 3 no trumps.
Well, you can see Nunes was nervous of leading hearts, having announced his hearts with a bid. Then he thinks that the guy bidding 2 no trumps is likely to have, say, ace queen x instead of ace jack x, and hoping to give nothing away with the diamond lead, or to let partner in to play a heart through.
On this auction, again, despite the comment of the 2 clubs, East-West have shown fair amounts of values. West can actually be very strong here. And given that South already has 12 high card points, it's fairly unlikely that partner has much. And so it's very dangerous to give away a trick here at trick 1. Both East-West have shown semi-balanced hands. West with clubs, and East as a weak no trump.
If the bidding had been different and East had the king of spades and needed North to have the ace to make a 9th trick there, then he would, on a heart lead, maybe hold up the ace until the 3rd round to kill communications on the basis that the ace of spades was not with the established heart winners. Anytime you start a 3 no trump contract with ace jack x in the suit that's led, you have to decide whether to hold up or not on the basis of which defender you expect to gain the lead first when you play to set up your extra tricks.
It's also known for the vocabulary as the danger hand principle. Which hand is the dangerous one, and sometimes you simply have to assume which is which, if you need a certain card to be somewhere. We all know that in the auction we can't place partner with a particular card that we need, but in the play, absolutely, if we need to make the contract, we have to assume sometimes that the right defender holds the right card.
Now, most people would regard to the North hand as just a raise to 2 hearts. But remember here that 1 heart is stronger than an ordinary opening bid and will be at least 14 points. So not for the first time I've noticed that the responder to one of a major does tend to bid more aggressively on several hands. He knows of a 5-4 fit and has made the stronger bid of 2 no trumps rather than 2 hearts.
Yes, 2 no trumps is strictly limited in strength, so South didn't have to do anything complicated. There was no slam in the offing, hence the 4 heart bid.
Can you say something, Bill, on the impact of the fact that they do have to open a heart with only 11 plus points when they've got both majors? Does that inconvenience them much?
Well, it's an interesting story. When they first started playing and doing very well in the very early 2000s, they didn't do that. They had 1 heart and 1 spade as showing 14 plus always, even if you had the other major. And they were opening 2 hearts and 2 spades with a weaker hand, including having both majors. And I guess what they discovered was that they couldn't handle the 2 heart and 2 spade auctions when the other major was still so strongly in play. So that's why they made that exception to the strong 1-level openings and the situation where they've got both majors. And as for your question, whether it has much impact, not a lot, to be honest. They've got good tools to discriminate between the the 11-point hands and the stronger hands. So it works fine, and I'm sure they took the right decision of putting the both majors' hands back into the one-level opening.
Right. Well, my next question for you is, there was a hand when Monaco played against England where they were forced to open 2 hearts with a 6-card heart suit because they had only 13 points rather than 14. That was passed out, and at the other table the England pair bid and made 6 diamonds, and the question is, do you think that's going to adversely affect the sales of your book?
Yeah, the sales in Britain might plummet. I don't know. You know, obviously I hope that Fantoni and Nunes do well, in that I love their system. I think it's a fantastic system, and it's a very theoretically effective system. But if you take a sample of 16 boards or any small number of boards, you are going to get occasionally some bad results, and that sounds like that one was a whopper. So I think it's very dangerous to say, well, this can't work because they had that bad result. You've got to really take the long-term view, or as I tried to do with their results, analyse all the hands that they played on DBO and seen how much they gained imps through system or lost imps. And the results were very strong for them. So I know it's an effective system. I know it for several reasons. One is by doing that statistical calculation on their results, and the other is having played it myself. I can see how effective it is. So I'm going to put down the missed 6 diamond contract to statistical variation.
Right.
So
You failed to
here's,
mention
Oh, sorry, I was just going to explain this option a little bit. 2 plus is an artificial 2+ game force, and, well, I suppose 2 spades must be some form of minimum, and 4 spades is to play.
Declarer will have, oh, the trumps are breaking badly, I see. But anyway, I was just going to say in general that Declarer will have no reason to take an early heart finesse running the jack, because he has fair chances of setting up a long club by leading towards the honours in dummy, on which he could discard discard the 7 of hearts. But anyway, the 4-0 trump break will make the play more interesting, perhaps.
I guess the auction in the other room between Helness and Helgamo adds emphasis to my earlier comment that I think these people are better than everyone else through the card play, because they certainly weren't better than everyone else in the bidding. They bid to a, frankly, quite silly contract of 6 spades. I'm not sure that I'm prepared to do a post-mortem on their auction. I know the result was pretty bad.
I would suspect that Helge will Helness play a simpler system and a simpler carding than pretty much anyone you know at the club above, say, intermediate level, possibly including intermediate.
Well, they began 1 spade, 2 no trumps, with 2 no trumps showing a strong spade raise. I mean, loads and loads of people play that, the jack of the 2 no trumps, and there's nothing particularly clever in bidding 2 no trumps. Where the cleverness and difficulty comes in is how both hands can subsequently show how strong they are, whether they've got near a minimum or extra values. And here they both had a minimum, and yet they somehow climbed up to 6 spades just by far east bidding blackwood at some stage. So that's not a good advertisement for the method. I mean, the rebid was 3 clubs, so I don't have before me what that meant. Some people declare at an early stage when they've got a minimum hand, and the west hand is more or less a minimum. He's got a bit of shape. Some people just like to rebid 4 spades on that, the principle of fast arrival. Others may use 3 clubs as a start-off bid to say, watch out, partner, I've got a minimum here, don't carry the bidding too high. We don't know what they're playing, but in any case, it's no good just to go on showing shape and cue bidding regardless of strength, and then have no idea by the time you've got to the 4 spade level whether you've got game values or slam values.
Yeah, it looks like they got trapped into a lot of courtesy cue bidding, where each of them was making a cue bid just in case partner was strong. And that's what the 4 diamond and 4 heart bids sound like to me. I'm not sure where East got the 4 no trump bid from.
Well, that is exactly the problem that players can get into when they play 2/1, a system very, very popular in the USA and pretty popular in other places too. Just because the bidding is forced to game, you've got a lot more bidding space, and you can start using that by agreeing a suit lower down than normal, both cue bidding, but that's no use if you're just cue bidding and nobody knows whether you've got a 12 count or a 17 count. That's not such an easy to play system to play 2/1 as people may think. You know, they say, oh, you've got much more room, it's much easier to sort out things. Well, it may be, but only if you make best use of that, and you've got certain methods, say, including the serious and non-serious 3 no trump bid invented by Eric Rodwell, I think, to in some way discover whether you've got slam values.
Anyway, to not distract ourselves from the game, some interesting play here when you see this 4-0 break. Any comments about the order of the play? Would you can't really afford that second diamond ruff because it hurts your communications early, I think. But how are you going to play the club and heart suits? So another diamond here will provide an extra trump trick for north-south, but now that the hearts are set up and the clubs are set up as well, that's not going to be enough. The clearer can still afford to lose 2 trumps. 1 trump, sorry. We see this position very often when you have Queen 10 small or opposite Ace 4, and leading up means that if lefty flies, you're off the guess, and if they don't, you have a guess, but you might be able to play the suit for, well, no loser or 1 loser. And sometimes to try and beat the contract, the defense is forced to take the king. For instance, what the player doesn't want to see happening is he plays the ace, is something like ace the clubs low to the queen 10. Now south wins with the king jack, north pitching a heart, and north gets a heart ruff, or something like this.
Yes, I remember Reese saying more than once that even in cases where playing off the ace will occasionally, very rarely, pick up a singleton king, you may keep better control of the hand by leading low and keeping hold of your ace. That may work out better in the endgame.
I remember a session from the Monaco, Japan in the round robin where there were a couple of tremendously difficult declarer play problems where they had to keep control of a side suit for exactly the reason David mentioned. And very few made it, but actually one of the Italian pairs did play low to the queen. Actually, I think it was low to the 10 even, and in a similar type of position. And, well, they deservedly got a game swing on that. Top-notch stuff. So here comes the rough and fluff as predicted, but the declarer, yeah, he still has communication, as long as he picks the right suit.
It was interesting to me that at trick 2, when Fantoni had a pretty easy diamond continuation, couldn't really do any harm in that suit when looked at on its own, he chose instead to switch to a heart through the ace-king. And yeah, many defenders wouldn't do that. They'd say, well, declarer may have the jack. Why should I lead away from the queen when I've got a safe play in diamonds? But you know, it may work pretty well. He chose the 6 rather than the 2 to suggest that he had an honor. I'm not quite sure what carding they play, but there's no reason for them to stick to standard carding in that situation. And he was quite happy. Sometimes you switch to force declarer to take an early guess, for example, before he knows that the trumps are breaking 4-0. Not exactly the case here because the ace-king were in dummy, but still interesting to me that he chose to make that play. Also particularly annoying for the pair at the other table to think that he had to give quite a bit of thought to how to play 4 spades when they decided to bid 6 spades.
Perhaps you can enlighten us a little bit, Bill. What flavor or style of one club showing a strong no trump do North use? Do they have like a possible 6-card diamond suit?
Sorry, I was just away for a minute. One club can have 5 diamonds easily enough in a balanced hand. Wouldn't be normal on the 6-card diamond suit. In this auction, 2 hearts is a relay, and 2 no trumps. I'm not 100% sure, but the way I play it is it denies a major suit shortage.
Is that a bit unusual, showing a shortage before a trump suit has been found?
This is the way they do it. This is their relay approach. So 2 spades would have shown a heart shortage, and bids higher than 2 no trumps would have shown a spade shortage. So South can relay again with 3 clubs, and no doubt he will.
I suppose 6 spades is a reasonable contract, although the trumps break 4-1.
So, according to the notes in my book, and they've gone consistent with this, 3-note trumps basically denies a club shortage. So 6-3-2-2 shape is what Nunes knows now.
But does he know that there's 3-card spade support?
No, he doesn't.
We see just to the left of Nunes' hand that the result from the other table, those of you who haven't perhaps watched on BBO before, telling us that 6 spades was bidden made by South. Despite the break, they were able to get away the club losers, or maybe even a club was led. Have to look at the play record by hitting other table on the right of our window to take a look at that. So they're going to be, perhaps, from what Bill has told us of the bidding, struggling to get to that spot.
Yeah, they are. A slightly iffy contract, 6 spades, but it is a good contract given the solidity of the diamonds.
Nadala played it and took a roughing finesse in diamonds to get rid of the club losers. West hadn't risked leading from one of his long suits. He led his singleton trump. In fact, if you look at the trump suit in isolation, probably not relevant here, that lead of the 9 of trumps might have allowed declarer to pick up the trump suit. Of course, it could always be a fake lead from, I suppose, from 10-9 doubles, and not that players tend to do that particularly often. So the system of responding to this 2-heart relay, it seems a little difficult to me, and so it has proved on this particular card, this particular hand. I know Bill has already reminded us that, of course, you can't judge the success of a general method just from 1 or 2 examples. But what, for example, would it have meant if South had responded 2 spades to maybe discover if there was a fit in that suit? Does 2 spades have a special meaning, Bill?
Yes, it does. It's invitational with 4 spades, I think. Look, they use the relay methods, and they can find out most of the distribution of the hand. I mean, knowing that North is 6-3-2-2 or perhaps 7-2-2 on this hand, and in the range of 10 to 13, is a pretty good piece of information. In this case, it's quite true that you would like to know what the 3-card suit is, because it'll determine whether you've got the 8-card spade fit or not. So I fully appreciate it hasn't worked terribly well here, but they do have most of the distributions down pat.
Yes, and we have to remember that, I mean, they are starting at the 2 diamond level, so it's not possible to achieve everything. That's a similar problem with the Precision 2 club opening. I played Precision for 20 years, and you get the great advantage of playing a strong club, as Precision club players think it. Price you have to pay is to open 2 clubs when you've got a sort of lesser opening bid, maybe 11 to 15, with typically with 6 clubs, maybe 5 clubs, another suit, and there's much less room to sort out the best contract. You've lost a whole level of bidding.
It's a balance sheet. You gain a lot through the preemptive effect of the bid, and you can lose in a few ways, one of which is being demonstrated here, where they couldn't actually exchange enough information to reach a good slam.
So I don't have a huge amount to add to this, but playing much more basic, say week 2s, I strongly favor a fragment showing response to, say, to an ask after week 2. So in order to be able to exactly find these 5-3 fits. So I neither like the standard August or feature responses, because for me strain is so much more important. So for instance, if North could have shown a 3-piece spade fragment, that would that would cater for this type of hand. To show shortness is a little bit curious, as David mentioned, but perhaps it allows better 3-no trumps and better diamond slams. So give and take.
No, look, it's just the way the relays go, and it's a completely different scenario to week 2s, because here the opening bidder can have a side 4-card major, can have a side 5-card club suit, so you've got to find these things out. The order in which you find the distribution I don't think is either here nor there. For example, over the 2 club openings, which have basically the same meaning, the 2-diamond relay does in fact inquire for a fragment rather than a shortage. It's just the way they've decided to work out their relays, and there's no huge philosophical point about them. They establish most of the distributions at a level that's not too high, and they take it from there. And here it clearly hasn't worked.
Can you imagine any hand where after that start North would be allowed to bid again over 4 spades? Is there any sort of invitational element to South's sequence of bids?
The generic answer to your question, David, is yes. I mean, they have lots of inferences. South doesn't have to continue the relay. They can revert to natural bidding, and therefore that puts a lot of inferences into the auction. And I know when I play the system, I have a number of bids that then invite the opening bidder back to the party. Here, I think that Fantoni was just nervous about his good hand and 3-card spade support, but I don't think that 4 spades was particularly invitational to slam.
Right. Why did you predict then that South would bid 3 clubs continuing the relay sequence rather than 3 spades?
Because North could have had a singleton club. So a lot of those other bids after 3 clubs, 3 diamonds, 3 hearts and 3 spades, the way I played, they all show short clubs and various shapes in the other 2 suits. And of course short clubs would have been magic to the South hand.
Yes, with regard to reaching a slam, you mean, of course.
Yeah, I mean, a typical distribution here is 4-3 in the majors, a 5-card diamond suit and a singleton club. So if he got one of those responses, it would have been off to the races. He could easily have bid a winning Grand Slam, for example, in some scenarios.
If they had got to a Grand Slam, would Amazon have been able to cope with the heavy consequent demand for your book? What do you think?
Well, Amazon's pretty big, so they may have been able to cope with it. A number of people have picked up the book and picked up the system, not necessarily via the book, and fallen in love with the system just as I did. There's quite a big group of Canadians who are playing it very seriously, and the fact is it's tremendous fun to play the system. So you really don't need a further justification from this view graph. Fantoni and Nunes topped the datums in the round robin. That's a pretty significant outcome. I know that a lot of that would have been due to the card play, but it would also have partly been due to the system.
Absolutely. Gives me another chance to mention that one of the England pairs topped the datums in the Venice Cup, which we're very proud of our team there. Yeah, I mean, I think they were the only two pairs who were over 1 imp per board. The great Italian pair here and Stockdale and Brown, so well done to both those pairs.
Yes, they're a very good pair, I know, and Fiona Brown is an ex-Aussie, so I take a little bit of a very tiny amount of reflected glory from that.
Well, one club is natural, so 2 no trumps is showing the red suits, but those are just incredible suits to come in on. How Terence Rees would have hated seeing that 2 no trump bid. Mind you, he hated seeing people using Stamen on hands where the whole of the world bid Stamen, so great player and great writer as he was, he did have some pretty eccentric views on bidding. He was a member of the Bridge magazine bidding panel and used to take great pride in coming bottom of that panel because he chose such eccentric and often conservative bids. He'd sometimes complained to me if someone had managed to rob him of the bottom place by making a few very bad bids rather than, in Rees's case, some very clever bids that hadn't occurred to anyone else.
Rees's book, where the first half of the book is on card play and the second half is on bidding, I can't remember the name of the book, you probably know it, David. It really is one of the best bridge books ever written, in my opinion.
Is it, I think it's called The Expert Game or Master Play, depending on which country you bought it in?
Yeah, I think it's had a few different reprintings and so forth, and possibly the bidding on its own or the play on its own. But I've got a copy somewhere, and the sort of over-my-shoulder technique that he took on the play one, where he takes you into his thought processes in the play, that's great. But the bidding problems, where he presents a bidding problem and then discusses the various options, is brilliantly written and has a lot of really good learning points for the bidding. And it's a classic.
So
right,
the player is, as we can see, in a fair amount of trouble on this board. He's hoping to make as many small trumps as possible.
Let's not discuss this board.
Yeah.
Too horrible.
So,
West's double of 2 no trumps means that he's interested in penalising at least one of the 2 suits indicated by the unusual no trump bid. If instead West had a good fit for his partner, then he has the option of bidding one of the red suits, and that will be taken artificially. Most people play that bidding the higher of South 2 suits, 3 hearts, would a Greek club show a strong club raise, whereas 3 clubs would show a pretty weak club raise, and probably the meaning of 3 diamonds would be that he had some sort of spade holding, the other unbid suit, maybe tolerance for clubs. So the double says he's willing to double at least 1 suit. South chooses diamonds. Well, he was 5-5. He had the option of redoubling to get North to choose, but the fact that North has passed already suggests that he has sort of equal preference or equal hatred of both the red suits. So they've been caught, and when they see that they'll be going for quite a big number, the first question they'll be wondering about is, would the other side have made game? In which case a big chunk can be taken out of his penalty. We can see the answer on the screen, 4 spades -1. They've gone down. So this is going to be a big swing away then.
So notice that the moment East got in, they led back a diamond, which is a very normal play. For the beginners out there, when partner makes a clear penalty double of their suit and they're in a bad fit, you should always, well, there's never always a bridge, but you seriously consider returning your trumps to remove declare small trumps and promote partner's hands and prevent partner from later being end played. Notice a similar defensive thing. I really like watching the defense. West got his ace of hearts out of the way first, so that East wouldn't do something silly like play his king, crashing the ace. So West helped East out after East helped West out. And this is the kind of thing that we like to see.
So I delved into my bookcase for the Reese book, and I've found this. It's called Practical Bidding and Practical Play. I think that's one of the forms of it. It was first published in the early 70s, and I see that it cost in the UK 85 pence.
It's worth having an agreement what North's three clubs would have meant. I think it has to be natural, especially since the one club was 2+. From North's perspective, there's no reason that clubs aren't the best fit.
No, it's possible he could bid that, but on the other hand, he hasn't been doubled yet, and he may hope that partner will escape somehow. I mean, basically, any preemptive bid is a gamble. I've said that so many times, but it's not a particularly good gamble, I think, with those suits. West has the option of just bidding on, as I mentioned, if they've got a big spade fit their way or a big club fit. You're not really getting in the way of their auction that much by bidding 2-no trumps. And with those awful suits, very poor playing strength, and the ace giving you some defense, amazingly, as we see, the game actually went down on the other cards. So even the best players in the world maybe choose not the best bid. But anyway, we know from all the Bridge Magazine expert panels that there are loads of problems that generate about 6 different answers, even when every player is supposedly of international standard. 2-no trumps might have worked, I suppose, and didn't work there.
So 2 clubs here is a form of Gazili. Al Hollander, the resident conventions expert, says it's a Loria variation, which I don't know, but 2 clubs shows either clubs or a good hand, which is usually 17+. Any distribution pretty much. 2 diamonds says I also have a good hand in context, which is showing about 8+. And now I don't know. Maybe Al knows.
The basic idea between using 2 clubs conventionally after that start is that particularly when you play 2/1 game forcing, the 1-no trump response is being made to carry an unbelievably heavy load. You may want to find some response on a 5 count. People are reluctant to pass their partners 1 bids these days. You may have to bid it on an 11 count if you don't think that your hand is strong enough to force to game. And facing 5 to 11, there's not that much space left when you want to stop at the 2 level when partner's minimum. So it makes good sense to abandon 2 clubs as a natural rebid and to use it as an inquiry, in particular, to find out as quick as you can if partner's got a bust and you don't want to get too high when your hand is pretty good. Well, after two semi-finals that were basically amazingly one-sided and weren't expected to be, we were all hoping for the final of all finals when the two great teams clashed. And wonderful as it is to see the Italian machine absolutely crushing one of the best teams in the world, 62 up at this very early stage. It's good in a way and bad in another way, because we needed a really good final here to make up for the two one-sided semi-finals.
Yes, it's a bit disappointing so far. Of course, there's a fair way to go, but and I'm interested that Italy have played the same four players for the first two sets. I wonder why that is. It's kind of unusual.
Is it recognised, Bill, that one of the Italian pairs is not quite so magnificent as the other two?
Not to me, it isn't. De Bruyne and Cementa, I think, have not played yet. And yeah, if that's the third pair of a team, well, it's the strongest third pair in history.
I've played in several teams myself where we had three third pairs.
Yes, that can happen.
Right, battling it out for third place, huh? So nothing much to this hand, it seems. I mean, there's 9 top tricks, at least. And there's chances in the club suit, chances in the heart suit. On the 10 of hearts lead, the player can be pretty sure that South has the required holding. And note that the 6 promotes. And he doesn't even bother playing it out. Two clubs is a game force, and if balance could be just 2 pieces. This is fairly standard, well, not standard, it's a fairly normal modern treatment. It provides as much room as possible, as David was mentioning, and these guys aren't chumps and will know how to use that room.
Beware of the commentator's curse.
Oh dear. So South's 2 spades has pretty much accomplished its duty in that it persuaded East to make a fast arrival or something along those lines, jump to 4 hearts, which has taken away all the room to get to the excellent slam. It's a little bit curious because his supposed wastage in Queen-Jack doubleton clubs is in his partner's 3 club bid. Partner didn't have to bid here over 2 spades. A force is on. The West is showing shape and playing strength.
You know, you'd have to say that the standard of the bidding in this set has not been so hot. In the first set, which swapped a lot of imps, I thought it was very good. But here, Well, we've got at least 4 serious misjudgments on all 4 of the swing boards, I guess you'd say.
That's where all the swings came in the first set of the Venice Cup final. Just sort of awkward bidding sequences and hands that you thought would cause no problems when they first went down, ending up with double figure swing in one column or the other, largely shared, although the USA had about 13 imp lead at the end of the set. I haven't looked at the score now.
You'll be pleased, David, that it's within touching distance, just 9 imps in it now. US still slightly ahead.
Yes, I was told that England did reach the slam on board 24, so that's not particularly good news. I was rather hoping that had carried them into the lead. Anyway, there's a long way to go, and as you say, if it's just 9 imps, even if it's 25 imps, then it's easy to recover differences like that. 50, of course, well, that can be recovered in best part of 2 days' play, but you are playing against tough opposition, so it's not so easy as it might otherwise be.
You need little sequences like boards 20, 21 and 22 here. There's 38 imps in a flash.
So we can see that the cards lie very favorably for declare. He can pick up the spade suit for only 1 loser, and he can pick up the trump suit for no loser. But we're only in 4, and from declarer's perspective, we want to be playing as safely as possible for this contract. So what are people's thoughts? Low to the ace and back up to the queen? There we go.
Yes.
People don't, or is it low to the 9?
No, you won't do that. He's going to perform a trumpectomy, get rid of the opponent's trumps, and then he'll look to discarding his diamond loser on the club suit.
Right. Big cards will win once the annoying small trumps of the opponents are out.
If you forget about the 9 of hearts for the moment, then playing ace to 4 opposite queen jack to 4 is a combination that will appear in every beginner's book on card play, including one I was just checking the proof of this morning. No use leading the queen because you don't have the 10, and your best bet is to lead towards the cards you're hoping will make extra tricks, the queen and the jack. And you make three tricks when the king's with West.
I think say this were at match points or border match scoring, where you need to take every trick possible, sometimes greedily, then I think because you hold that 9, as David pointed out, you play for this distribution, where you can crush the 10.
There was a hand in the first set, a possible diamond slam, that had something like ace jack 9x opposite queen 4th, and there was king 10 to 4 over the ace jack to 4, and in fact the American declarer went off by playing to the ace back to the queen, and then East showed out. But had she begun with a finesse of the jack, there was some possibility that the hand sitting over her with king 10 to 4 might follow low, and then at match points it would be tempting for the declarer to go back and lead the high honour from her hand, attempting to pin a doubleton 10 offside, and that would then see the defeat of the slam at imps. So had she played it that other way, I'm sure that, and West had found the duck, I'm sure she would have made the safety play of leading low back to the queen on the second round.
Very cute. Fantoni played that in 6 diamonds, but a heart was led, and when he quite reasonably went up with the ace so he could take his discard, he could no longer make the contract. That was a very unlucky swing against Monaco because they stopped in game at the other table. Another fantastic decision by the Italian North to open that monster with 1 heart, a non-forcing 1 heart, and South was it. As you can see, 4 hearts is not a bad contract, and 10 of hearts is a good card. So here comes Gazilli, Turner style.
Will
The
some
1
of
heart out.
I was going to ask if there were any listeners that could tell me how common Gazilli is in regular Italian pairs at whatever level. I think it's a superb convention which has many, many games and sequences that are number 1 or any 5-card major system, but it's not so common in the US.
Just wanted to make it clear to the kibitzers that the 1 heart opening, which shows 14 up, may be a really, really good hand and is therefore forcing for 1 round, and that is why South has had to response on that appalling South hand in case his partner had the sort of giant that he does in fact actually hold.
This is a perfectly acceptable contract. It is a miserable South hand, but the spades are offside, the diamonds are unfriendly. This is not their day.
He's playing to maybe rough the 4th round of diamonds with the 10 if they don't break. If they're 3-3, he's lost nothing by playing the suit off at this early stage.
No, that he doesn't have the entries
at one table can be relevant. They don't know it, but if someone's already gone from 800, it doesn't make any difference at all whether they make their 600 game on the other cards. So quite a lot of the actual play and bidding just gets chucked out in that form of scoring.
I can explain some of this auction. The two-club bid was artificial, showed 10 or more points, and was game forcing unless North has the weak hand with the majors. Two spades showed a 4-card diamond. 3 turn trumps would have been a relay, effectively, and 3 diamonds would have identified the short clubs. I don't know what 3 hearts and 3 spades meant.
It's fair enough in the Bermuda bowl to expect the defenders, even those of the sort of lesser ranked countries who are in the 22 team round robin, to cope with artificial bidding like that. But you can see that national authorities would be pretty reluctant to allow these systems to be played in a club game when they want to attract more and more people to play bridge in a time when audiences are dwindling and getting players, the number of players is dwindling and the age of the players is going up. They don't want to allow fantastically complex artificial systems. It will deter people from playing the game, and that's why, say, the English Bridge Union, the ACBL, have to bear that in mind, the good of the game for the majority.
I'm going to have to contribute a bit in that such restrictions are off-putting for, say, younger players who, personality dislike such random authoritarian so, if you speak to any young player, pretty much they'll show taste for any of such rules. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah, I agree with you. Best not to live in the North American area, I would say. That's the most restrictive location from the point of view of systems. And I believe that ultimately it is in the process of damaging the USA's results at these very top levels.
Well, of course I appreciate Yuan's point about young players. They want to come in and play all sorts of systems. That's not quite the end of the story, because first of all, every time you play a very unusual method, you're just going to gain points completely undeservedly just because people don't know what you're doing. If they're playing 2 hands against you in a pairs tournament, why should they have to study your card that'll take 20 minutes to read and find out about these artificial bids in advance so they can discuss a defense? I particularly dislike systems that involve strong passes or furt opening bids, where if they've got complete rubbish they open a spade ahead of you. Even if you're playing in the Bermuda Bowl, why should you not be allowed to play your system in the second seat, say, because everyone is always going to open a spade against you when they've got nothing? Why should you have to have a second system to play just against some obnoxious and bidding a spade there? So I'm very happy to see all these furt systems banned, and I'm hoping that they've died off by now.
I think we're coming from two different angles about the level of restriction. So for instance, in the UK or the WBF, those things are frowned upon. But as someone who grew up in the ACBL bridge, world. They used to do lots of good things, but I think the conventions requirements and restrictions are terrible. For instance, you can't play the multi, which is everyone's grandmother knows how to play in the rest of the world. You can't play the multi in some limited NABC plus events, which is insane.
Yes, just to follow up on that, I mean, I'm agreeing with both of you. There's a world of difference between the hum systems, the highly unusual methods of weak opening bids, and constraints on conventions and approaches. And I totally agree with you, David, that the weak opening systems should be heavily limited and practically never allowed. But what the ACBL does is disallow quite reasonable conventions that perhaps do require a little bit of thought to counter them, but are in common use elsewhere in the world. And the Americans are getting no exposure to these conventions. Now, case in point is North-South system here, Fantunis, which is an incredibly natural system. It only gets complicated when they have the auction to themselves and the opponents are right out of the auction. And yet you cannot play Fantunis at the GCC level, which is the normal level of ACBL events, because of some really quite bizarre restrictions on conventions. I think it's very, very unhealthy.
Anyways, after my rant, sorry, I can't. When people start talking about restrictions, I can't help throwing something because something I've thought about quite a lot. But the Declare is well on the way to his contract here and has managed to set up a spade trick. And the heart split. So at, for instance, in a comment at border match or something like that, now there would be a long tank or whatever as you try to decide who to play the Queen of Diamonds for. But at it, big cards win and you claim.
Nearly all the deals that I write about that aren't from actual play, it's always arranged so the target is for declarer to make 3 no trumps or to make 4 spades. If you put in a hand and say, you're in 3 no trumps, you've got 9 top tricks, and the interest is, how do you make the 10th trick? People are just going to turn to a different page. They're not interested in saying, oh, can you make an over trick? And sometimes people say, well, what you should do is say in the article it's a match point event. And then it becomes absolutely critical whether you make an over trick, and everyone will be interested. No, they won't. They'll have turned the pages and be looking at the cricket scores. So that's one of the problems with making over tricks sound exciting when you're writing about the game. It's much neater if you take away a king, sunk away, and then the key play that you're trying to promote will actually give you the contract or not. Now, looking at the bidding of this hand, South has made a responsive double, which shows he's got the values to bid, but bid take, and it tends to deny, for most partnerships, 4 cards in the other major, because with spades, South would have been willing to make a bid in spades.
And often, as you say, 3 no trumps is often the contract you want to be in when you have values, but not some kind of bid. Oh, interesting. Often this double will ask for 3 no trumps if they can. For instance, they've made some slightly off-shape double, but with cards. Nor the very weak spades for the auction shows us single. So one important thing to consider when you're bidding is not to worry so much about level necessarily, provided you get to the right strain. No trumps cannot possibly be the right strain, and once you get to the better minor, or possibly if a partner has 3 very strong spades, to 4 spades, but it seems unlikely since you are weak. Getting the diamonds on this hand is a good beat.
Yeah, it's very well bid, isn't it? The whole point of East's raise to 3 hearts on such a weak hand, taking advantage of the favourable vulnerability, is to take away all the bidding space from north-south. They haven't mentioned any suitors bid, got no idea at that stage how strong either of the hands is. Very little bidding space left, and by using that 4-heart bid to show extra strength in his double, they've got to 5 diamonds, so that's pretty good.
You saw my slight surprise when the 4-heart came out, and afterwards my realization that it's a great bid, really, really good. In some ways, we've seen some bad bidding already this set, but this auction is very simple by all four players, and it's a good contract. There's not so much in the play. You play the mate, the trumps are pulled, you take the club and as, and this gives you a pitch for the spade, and you can take the spade and as as well.
At the other tables, South preferred to bid 4 diamonds. He's pretty heavy in points for that, and that carries the bidding past a possible 3-no trumps, but that's not such a likely contract unless partner's got to say ace-1 in hearts. And North felt he had enough to raise 4 diamonds to 5. So that was 2 elegant routes to the best contract. Right, on this hand, the bidding at the other table was a diamond, a spade, and no trump. Now, I've regarded it for decades as an absolute atrocity for North to rebid 2 spades to that sequence. But recently I've become less sure about that, and I see that a lot of players do seem to that. So what do you two think about rebidding a 5-card major after that start of a diamond, a spade, a no trump?
I'm a routine passer. What's led to change your thinking, David? And some sort of argument, or just some hands you've seen?
Well, I know that I'm quite happy. A lot of players in England are happy to rebid 1 no trump when they've got a Sultan spade, so that sort of flavours my view on the subject. But I mean, I suppose the point is that if you you may not make a lot of spade tricks if partner's got a doubleton, say, even, and you allow him to play in 1 trump, your 2 may be dead. So presumably there's some reason why so many players keep on doing it around the world.
David, my take on this is that had this been a strong no trump auction where South opens the diamond and North bids the spade, we automatically raise 2 spades on pieces. Pretty much, if I don't raise partner, I deny this. I find that the auction continues very easily after you raise. There are many ways to find out the quality of your raise. Moreover, I mean, I prefer transfers, which is one of these things that the GCC doesn't allow, amazingly. So that for me, it would have gone something like a club, a heart, 1 spade, showing a minimum hand and exactly 3 pieces. I've described my hand fully at the 1 level. So I pretty much will always raise par if I can at all. If I deny a 3-card, if I have 3 pieces, then I'm almost surely 4-3-3.
That's the point, isn't it? I mean, in France, you get the guillotine if you raise with 3-card support. So they're probably routines of the suit in order to find the 5-3 fit. In other parts of the world, people are much more keen to raise with 3 cards, and then when they don't, then the 5-card suit's less attractive for a rebid. But Yuan's point about the transfers is spot on. I mean, they are superior transfer responses to club that they really should be, they will be automatic for everyone within a decade, I feel.
Kapitsa is telling me that Larry Cohen says he always rebids the Carjo on that sequence. So there's one world-class player who thinks that it's the right idea.
I think it's really important just to know what your partner will expect. For instance, my partner is playing with me, know that if I don't raise them, I don't have it. But if you're playing with someone else who never raises, well, then you have to always just bid 2 spades. So one way or the other. What I don't like is inconsistency, so that you never know what partner has. You know, during the morning he might raise you, and during the afternoon he might not. So that makes it really hard to play with.
Some people say that if you'd opened a no trump because the ranges were slightly different, you would always go into the 5-card suit with a transfer on the other hand. So you should do the same when he rebids a no trump. But of course, the point that you're making is that if he has got, say, 3-card support, particularly if he's got a roughing value, partner would have raised the spades, so it's much more likely that he's only got 2 spades. He certainly won't have 4.
So this is the, I suppose the name is the Mexican 2 diamonds showing an 18 to 19 balance, and 2 hearts is, well, Al is explaining it in the written commentary. Possibly a weak transfer, but possibly strong. They get to a good spot here. The gain of the optimal line Mexican 2 diamonds, which we don't see too many people play anymore except for Italians, and we should always suspect that if the Italians play something that the rest of us don't, that maybe there's something to it. The real gain is when the bid doesn't come up, so that you don't have the balanced 18 to 19 hand in other auctions. We all know how awkward it is in competition after we open a minor or a major, and we never manage to show this hand, and it's gone. The opponents have started preempting. What it also does is that with decent response, you can play for the major from the strong hand. Notice that in a normal system, sorry, in standard 2/1, for instance, East would open a diamond, and West, the weak hand, would be playing 4 spades. On this particular hand, it does have 10, but you're much more likely for the strong hand to want to be declaring. We know over, say, a strong no trump, you want declared to be the strong hand, and it's the same, even more so, over the no trump, which is the 2 diamond bid.
Okay.
Over 3 no trump, obvious spade that fit. In fact, he had such a good hand plates that many players would have bid, would have Q-bid on the hand to bid 4 diamonds. What a great bid that is. It says I'm maximum for spades and I have no club control. So that pretty much says a huge amount about it. The intention is that if your partner was close to a slam when he bid 3 no trumps, the fact that he knows now you've got a huge fit for spade that you control, that you don't have control, that may allow him to cooperate or even just to fly straight to him once in every while.
A really good point, David. If each diamond is the third of hearts instead of the Queen Jack third, now hand is huge.
I want to get back to Yuan's comment about this auction to get the strong handers to fit this way. And what I think will be happening and will be in 2/1 systems in the future is that the East hand will open 1 club because 1 diamond would show a 5-card suit, and the West hand would transfer heart, and now East will bid spades, and that's a simple, clean way to get the strong handers declarer.
I expect for a short time the authority ordinary transfer responses to one no trump, thinking that it would confuse everyone. But of course, now that 90% of the world use transfer responses to one no trump, everyone's used to it, and they're perfectly happy to defend against it. Now, it's just the same playing transfers opposite a one club opening, which is becoming more and more popular everywhere, certainly in England and all around some of the European countries. Okay, at the moment the authorities don't like it and say it's too difficult for people to defend against, but I think Bill may well be right when he suggests that that will come more and more into the game. And those of us who are lucky to still be alive in 10 or 20 years' time, when they switch on to BBO, if that still rules the roost at that time, they'll find a lot more transfers facing one club.
Interested to see what in third seat. I think he'll open two spades or two clubs. He's gone for the slightly safer two clubs.
I hear that they're now 11 imps ahead in the Venice Cup final. Just looking back over our scorecard here, and I see we've only had two part scores, one of which was 3 diamonds bowled for a 500 penalty. So although we may have had no slams bid, it's been an absolutely solid scene match. And they've been fairly interesting hands. Mentioned before that whatever the hands are like, when you're watching the best players in the world, you have a good time.
Now, what's this two-no trump bid? Thank you, Al. Reversal. You can reverse any convention these days, I think.
Yeah, really clever people. They reverse it twice, but a bit disappointing really. They just get back to where they started.
Reminds me of the great...
David's been a bit facetious. Do actually play such a thing for his reverse solution. Say you open a strong no trump and they interfere. Now they're off because you want the sometimes at least. So you actually do see this. I've never really bothered with such things. I don't think the game is worth it. Anyway, to another fact here, pleased to see Jack 10 third. Only one loser. And there are club roughs and WFD.
At the other table, North opened a spade. Even vulnerable players are going to open that hand rather than give the opponents a free ride. East overcalled just 2 hearts, a 17 count with a moderate suit, and that was raised straight to 4 hearts. 4 hearts. That's how they got to the same contract there.
So declare his left queen with a trump pick now. There was a case to be made for immediately continuing second club to build communication, because the risk is that, say, South can get in with the club and play ace of hearts and another heart, but still no damage to declare really. We see 6 side tricks provided they can take them, and 2 top trumps.
When you hit a 5-0 trump break, this is exactly the sort of side suits you want to be looking at, where you haven't got much work to do there.
I like to call this the Hawaii break. The point is that even shootouts have a singleton in spade, have a remaining spade void. They can't get into push the spade through. Plus, that would give North spades, and they open 2 clubs. I mean, perhaps already unexpected, but 6 would be totally unexpected.
Right, we move forward, and just in case there's plenty of action coming there, I'd like to take this just to thank the view graph operator. The standard of operating has been truly wonderful, and some people have told us that they haven't seen a single undo during the whole tournament, which is just unbelievable. So congratulations to the operators themselves and to those that trained them up in the midst of the tournament. I'm sure many of them hadn't done any VBO view graph operating before. And many thanks, of course, to Yuan, who it's a pleasure to commentate alongside. We always have a great time. And thanks to you all for watching. Right, let's see what action we have here.
Well, it looks like 5 diamonds, you just have to pick up that trump suit. And there's no reason not to pick it up if you're careful. You can draw ace trumps and just lose 2 tricks in the majors. So that's the play dealt with. What about the bidding?
Meant to deal with it the other way round, Bill.
Sorry about that. Yes, it was a bit.
Yeah, good point. One thing that I noticed that intermediates do is that they read maybe about suit combinations and bring big cards first to protect, but the thing to always remember is to look at the particular hand and cater to which 4-0 break you could possibly cater to. So catching ace of diamonds is going to, because you can't cater to Jack 10 4th offside. There is a direction you can cater to, and you play it correctly and you do it.
Right.
I've seen
I'd like to draw.
Players get things like this wrong.
I was going to say I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the 2 uses of the trump convention. The other one he had something like 5 low and 5 to an ace and an outside jack, and that's one where he ended up going for some penalty of 500 and of course gone off, and that was board 22. And now just look at the hand he uses it next, and his partner is still there. Of course, he knows if his partner's got the same sort of hand he had last time, and then the opponents have got something good on. In fact, he knows from West's past, very likely, that they don't have a massive hand. Here now, South has shown I don't have the same hand I had last time. You've bid a price, and I'm still thinking there might be a slam on. So that 4 hearts shows an absolutely massive hand, what he's got. And North's hand, for what it's worth, it does have 2 queens in it. So he hasn't just signed off. He knows that if his partner's as massive as he said, those queens might be useful cards.
So North should be able to, picture his partner, unless they have additional distribution, partner's going to be 5-5, and that would mean in diamonds you will only get 2 club pitches, which means that, well, it depends on if they're 1-2 or 2-1 in the majors. But if they're 1-2, then East did 1 no trumps instead of raising space. So there are quite a few inferences on this auction that the distribution that South has is exactly this one. Note that East-West have a surprisingly good vulnerable sacrifice in 5 hearts, losing just a spade, 2 clubs.
Uh, 4 no trumps show a number of key cards. That was the turbo convention of the try, or no, nice auction.
Well, it sure is the sort of bidding we just love to see. Not that they happen to have landed at the right level, but thoroughly investigated whether anything higher was possible, so that's just great bidding.
So one of the things that I don't teach me is the turbo convention, which is key card showing response, I think, at the 4 no trump or higher level. This means that you start a cube bidding sequence, you don't get to some terrible slam off. So you can pursue intelligently while showing key cards. Is that right?
No, I don't understand it either, Yuan. I mean, I know what the bid means, but I don't understand how they deal with the Queen of Trumps, and I don't use it myself. So perhaps some other nice spectator can explain better just why turbo is effective. I mean, clearly it must be because they've used it and stuck to it, but I understood it myself.
I just hear news from the Venice Cup that on this particular board, the English women made 5 diamonds in one room and 3 hearts doubled at the other table. So I'm too enthusiastic about that because there are people supporting both teams, but yes! Ha ha ha!